Welcome to the Big Bad Marketing Podcast. I am Janae.
And I am Brooke, and we are two entrepreneurs jumping headfirst into building a business.
We're marketers and content creators at heart. And in this podcast, we are helping small business owners learn how to play big with their marketing efforts, even with a small business budget.
So if you are ready to make big bad moves in your professional life, this podcast is for you. Welcome to episode 6. It is 2025. Does your business need a blog? Are blogs still relevant? Because people have been blogging for 25-ish years. So we're going to dive deep on all things blogs. I think to put it out there up front, our stance on blogs is very similar to our stance on business cards. If you haven't listened to episode 3, whether you still need a business card in 2025, take a take a second to go listen to that one. But really, does your business need a blog? Yes and no. Depends on what your business is, what your goals are for your marketing efforts, what resources you have available, if you have money and time to invest into it. So it's a big fat blanket. It depends.
I like to think that we are people who are decisive, and some of these topics are difficult to be too specifically or blanketly like yes or no about. They really are both and kinds of topics and depend on so many factors. So giving just a one black and white answer, it feels inauthentic.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I think if you just asked us completely out of context and said, should I create a blog for my business? We'd probably be like, yeah, blogs are a great idea. We love blogs. But maybe that's because we've been doing this for a long time and we understand the value and how beneficial a blog can be when it's done properly.
Sure, but that's the key is when it's done properly, when it's applied in the right context, when you have all of the ingredients together in a good way, right? But thinking back, like you said 25 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, are we that old? That's literally when blogging started being a thing,
Yeah.
but it is so different today, a live blog on a website today that's managed and well taken care of than the blogs of the past, which is actually where I started was like, I'm a blogger and I would write blogs about yoga and just like almost like a diary post, right? Or in modern day, if you've looked at a recipe on the internet lately, have you noticed it's like the first 3 pages are just about my life story, about why I have this recipe and I love it so much? That's what blogging used to be. And now it's become this multifaceted, expertise requiring effort to help build traction for your website and then create leads for your business. And when done tactfully, it can be incredibly successful.
Absolutely. And I do think there are people out there who still have that old image of the blogger creating the blog that is, here are my thoughts on life. This is why I love Grandma's lasagna soup recipe so much and why it means so much to me to share this with you. When I think when you think about it from the context of Google, when I'm looking for a lasagna soup recipe, I just want the ingredients and how to make it. I don't particularly care about the ties to grandma. While that is lovely. Yeah, definitely different variations on blogging now. And I think blogs are so diverse in terms of what they cover. They cross industries, they cross, B2C businesses, B2B businesses, and then the solo bloggers out there doing their thing. So I think it makes a lot of sense to start with this sort of high level crash course when we talk about blogs. What are we talking about? And kind of what is that secret sauce, that process behind it to make a great blog?
Sure. That's when I was reviewing this and preparing, I was thinking so many of our listeners are just entrepreneurs in any random industry. They're not necessarily marketers as our industry happens to be marketing. So we have this really depth of knowledge about these things, but as you're building a website for your accounting business or for your pizza shop, right? That's my go-to example, but or your fitness brand, right? You're like okay, well, what do I need on my website and a blog? Like, what even is that? So my hope is that we can dispel a little bit of what it is not and help people understand what a blog actually is and how it can benefit your website potentially.
Yeah. So at the core, a blog is simply a series of posts on a website that are focused on a specific topic or industry. And they tend to be ways for companies to share educational, more than anything, information with their ideal prospects.
So how to fill out a 1099 form might be an example of a blog.
Yeah, for an accountant, that would
Right,
be,
exactly.
yeah, definitely. So, I mean, these things that we're doing for small business owners, these are going to go on a blog on our website. So, we're going to do a blog about, does your business need a blog? And that is going to serve the dual purpose of educating our ideal prospects on whether they need a blog on their website and how to find out if they need one, and then how to build one. And we're going to take that blog and we're going to use it in other marketing efforts, which we're going to discuss in a little bit, the ways that a blog can benefit your business. But Janae, from a high level, what goes into that process of building a blog?
Sure. So I tapped back into some of our agency days and trying to think through this process and was realizing there's different ways this could be approached. But from a very basic, straightforward standpoint, I think you would consider your customer's journey. What are the things they're thinking about when they might be trying to find a new accountant nearby? What are the questions, or more specific terms, the queries that they would be searching for to find an accountant nearby or to get the answers to the questions they have? So, understanding your customer, what their needs are, and how your services meet those needs. And then just writing up a few ideas, looking for the keywords on those ideas about those search terms. So, what is a 1099 form? How do I fill out a 1099 form? Where can I find an accountant to support me with the 1099 form, right? And you start mapping those to keywords. So, the search term they're typing into Google, looking for the keywords that have higher volumes, right? And that's maybe more nitty gritty, but then mapping out the structure of an article so that you can answer those questions, any tangential questions that might be related to that help educate the user, and then ultimately just bring them to your website where then they can see all the amazing services you're offering and be like, oh, this person is the perfect accountant for me.
Yes. And all of that is very SEO driven. So we're thinking about people coming to the website through Google. And I think the alternative approach, say for someone like a fitness professional, they might say, I'm going to approach my blog by answering the most frequently asked questions from my personal training clients. So clients ask me all the time, what's the best diet for weight loss? How can I fit fitness into a busy schedule? So they might take some of these terms just from their life experience and they might build their blog around that. So I think there really are, you can always sort of layer in SEO, but I think it's important to note that certain companies are really going to drive forward with an SEO driven blog where they're kind of writing for the queries, whereas other small business owners might say, you know what, I want to make this deeply personal and I want to use way more personal anecdotes. And I don't really want this to rank in search. I instead want to be able to send this out to my clients as a tool for me to educate them on the questions that I get a lot. So that's sort of an important distinction.
Absolutely. And I was going to say maybe we should define SEO a little bit. That's where, like, this whole episode, it's kind of a walk into a rabbit hole of so many topics. So we'll have a lot more to come from this. But SEO being search engine optimization. So when we think about that, we think of trying to understand the back end or the algorithm of Google and then using our softwares and our elevated knowledge of how those things work on the backside to ensure that your pieces come up when someone searched for your terms. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and it's important to note that when you are creating a blog for SEO purposes, the way to rank is by making it helpful for your end reader. So I think there was a period of time, probably back in the 2010s and maybe even earlier, where people realized that if they included a keyword in their article enough times, it would rank in Google. Even though, as a reader, you would go to that article and be like, you're not saying anything. All you've done is repeat the keyword 50 times, and I didn't get anything from this. And now I'm going to go back and try to find something that's actually helpful. And Google has released a number of updates, most notably the helpful content update, wherein it promises to rank the most helpful content for a reader. So, where you really get the ranking potential in Google is when you create content around a search term that is so helpful that it draws people into your website. And when they click in, they progress deeper into your website. They're not hitting the back button to go back to Google to read someone else's article. They're reading yours, and then they're trusting you more as a brand as a result and navigating deeper into your site.
Yes. And this is a lot of yes and conversation, right? It is designed to observe user behavior so that, yes, you are clicking in and you're staying here and you're finding value. That's the message I think it's creating, is like, you're staying on this page, you must be getting out of it what you need. So you stay here, or you click to another page that you found through this one, because it's following the user's thought process. It's providing helpful information. And let's not forget that it is also algorithm based. So there's a lot of weaving together, I think you well pointed out, like SEO into a blog versus doing it the other way around.
Yes, absolutely. And then there are, of course, some other factors that take place outside of the content itself and the words you write. Things like the speed of your website and other technical components that Google is going to factor in. And then also the authority of your website, meaning how many other websites are linking to yours as an authoritative source. So beyond just your content, there are also sort of these other factors at play. So you could have really helpful content, but if your site is incredibly slow, Google might not rank your blog because it knows that it's not going to create a great user experience. So, again, this is a rabbit hole. We're going to go into this way more in depth on future episodes, but I think it's just really important to sort of understand from a high level, if you are creating a blog with SEO in mind, that there are sort of a lot of factors to consider within that.
Yes, I was going to say it's like a complex ecosystem with so many factors, but just considering adding a blog is a really good first step. So if you're listening to this, you're in a good place, and let's keep moving forward.
Absolutely. So, we've already sort of covered the visibility from a Google standpoint as a reason to build a blog, but what are some of the other common reasons why someone would say, this makes sense for me to invest in right now?
The primary one that comes to my mind always when I'm talking about this and thinking about it is building trust with your audience, right? A person who is searching for an accountant, and they, first of all, have a hard time finding your website, but then when they get there, there's no information. How are they going to trust you with their sacred financial information and make sure they're not going to tax jail, right? So the point of a blog in this case would be to show your reader that you know the industry, you understand their needs and their challenges, and you're the right person to help them with it because you've gone through your methodology, you've explained different things that help them understand the industry or the topic itself. So in this case, you're giving them lots of content on how to do their taxes, and they're like, yes, I trust you because I hear what you're saying and I know you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Trust and credibility are huge. And just saying, okay, clearly you are an accountant who knows what they're talking about. You have told me things that I have questions about because the way that you explained estimated quarterly taxes in this blog post really resonates with me as a small business owner. And I would like to ask you further questions because I like how you're presenting. So,
I think I can account on you.
oh
Oh,
no.
it's happening.
Oh, that was
Big bad
great.
puns.
Thank you for that. And then using those blog posts that establish the trust and credibility to support your other marketing channels. So, shout out to an old boss of mine, Patrick, who first introduced this idea to me of create once, publish everywhere. So, a blog is intentionally in depth. You go deep on a topic and you want to cover everything that your ideal prospect might want to know about a particular topic. And because it is so time intensive to create, you want to use that as many places as you can. So can you then clip some of the key points out of that and use them on your social media posts? Can you include that blog post in an email newsletter to draw more people to your site? Like, use it everywhere that you can. Repurpose that content because people are going to find you through all these various channels. So when you post on Facebook and Instagram and in your newsletter and you do a video on YouTube and you have your blog post, odds are good that somebody's only going to see one, maybe two of those. Odds are not good that they're actually going to cross all five platforms and say, oh, this feels a little redundant, right?
Oh, yes. And I think to this point, if you have done the research and identified a topic that you have found is important to your audience, enough so that you're going to research and create a blog about it, they still want to see more about it on other channels too. So I don't think what we're saying is like duplicate the content exactly, but use it to inform and don't reinvent the wheel of like, now what topics should I cover on my social channels or in my email? Like, you already know they're really interested in this, going with the same analogy in knowing how to do a 1099. You've already written this huge expose on it, which is called a blog, right? So how can you pull out pieces of that that are relevant, expand on those, add a quotation, slap it together with some pictures, and be like, boom, I have a whole other thing here that I've upcycled into something else that's useful, similar, following the same points, and still getting the educational, trust building qualities across.
Absolutely. So, sort of to sum up this whole what is a blog, I think in a really concise way, it's your business's voice online. It's your way of showcasing your professionalism and your expertise. And it is a way to connect with your customers and then hopefully in turn drive leads and sales. But ultimately, don't lean on your blog as your number one way to convert customers because that's not the intention of it. It really is a tool in your marketing tool belt, but it is not the driver of conversions.
Sure, it's nurture content is where I would tend to place that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, educational, I think it can be top of the funnel or nurture.
Mm-hmm.
It can be someone who's never heard of you, or it can be a previous customer that you're, creating a blog about a new service you're getting into and they need to know about it. So it can really span the full funnel of your marketing efforts and everything in between. And we'll get into it in a little bit, sort of how to do it right. But before we do that, let's talk about which businesses are going to majorly benefit from a blog versus others that may not necessarily need it right now. So, us coming from agency world where we worked with really large organizations, blogging is incredibly popular in the B2B space. And I think that's for a good reason. So, blogs can be a fantastic sales tool because it gives you the opportunity to showcase your thoughts and experience on a particular topic and to sort of establish yourself in a space. So, especially when you are in a sales cycle where it takes a lot of touches with your potential customer before they're going to trust you enough to buy from you, a blog can be a really powerful tool to say, hey, here's what we're thinking about this month. And then next month, go to them, hey, here's our latest blog post. This is what we're thinking about this month. And then after so many touches with it, they might say, hey, you know what? They've written a lot on this topic and they seem to really know their stuff. Maybe it's worth re-engaging for a conversation.
Sure. I'm thinking of a software company, for example, and they're pushing the newest versions of their software or whatever this business, the tool for another business to use a software. And this is where we mentioned some industries in a different podcast. We were mentioning like some industries, some businesses, it's just kind of boring. Like the thing that you do is just, it's accounting. It's very dry and numbers based, whatever it is. Like it's not spunky, but if you have exposés and blogs and content throughout your site that's showcasing your in-depth knowledge and potentially making it sound big and bad and fun, right? Like you've applied a cool voice to it, you're showing people how useful and well articulated about that topic you can be. And then you just keep showing up in their inbox. It's a pretty simple process, I think. Like you're like, hey, I've created this blog, and you're making an email newsletter, just like we said, by upcycling some of the content from that blog, repurposing it, rephrasing it a bit. And then you get the new people to come and click into the blog and read what you have to say.
Yes, definitely. And again, it just sort of goes back to that larger marketing strategy and being more intentional with this blog. And it's not meant to be something where you just drop 100 words on a page about today's thoughts and then you're sort of done with it. And so anyway, I think B2C is another huge space for blogging, especially when your customers need education and support on a particular topic or your services or your product. So if you have a particular product, say you're doing anti-aging skincare, and customers really need to understand what makes your product different because this is a really crowded space. I think a blog is a place where you can go really in depth on research and share with them, hey, here's the ingredients that go into our skincare products. Here's why we believe in the humane treatment of animals, whatever it might be, to further educate your audience and engage them with your brand on a deeper level.
So both of these examples, both the B2B and the B2C, sound like they could be big enterprise or big businesses, large scale businesses. I'm curious, what are your thoughts for mid-sized companies? And then I think more specifically, our audience, like entrepreneurs and small business owners, where do they fit into this? Do they still need a blog?
Yeah, I think this is where we really dive into the overarching it depends. And sort of like we talked about with business cards, if you have other elements in place to make your brand successful, you might be at the stage where you're ready for a blog. But if you don't have a website with,
A website,
a
period.
website period, then we need to prioritize a
We need to
website.
talk.
Yes, right? Call us. If you don't have a logo, if your LLC isn't set up, if you are, there are some of these other elements that really need to come to the table first. And you can think of the blog as kind of the add-on, the baby step number 5, 6, or 7, where you've got all these other things in place and you're chugging along and you maybe have a couple of customers and you're doing the thing and you're learning and I would not say from day one a blog is a wise investment for every business owner.
It's a goal that you can set a little bit later.
Yeah.
So if you haven't yet listened to our resolutions, our goal setting podcast, go ahead and listen to that after this one. But I think it's just so relevant because it's like, do everything in order. Think about it in a relevant, applicable way. Is it achievable, right? And is a blog going to help you at this stage where you're still just building your business? Maybe not. It all depends on so many factors, and you probably want to speak to marketing consultant to help you with that, which we certainly can do, but really consider where you're at in the business, because if you are a few years in and you do have consistent customers and your business is growing, you can further that process along and help it grow and scale it by starting to adopt a blog and building it up, reusing that content as we've talked about. But if you're just like day one, I totally agree with you. It's probably not the most lucrative use of your time right now.
Yeah. And I'll say too, if you cannot commit to blogging regularly, don't do it. It's sort of similar to any other efforts. It's like being on social media. If you can't commit to doing it every day or every week or every month, then don't do it yet. Wait until you're at a place where you can really commit to executing it in a meaningful way. Otherwise, those efforts are going to be in vain. So you will actually see a lot of websites. If you're curious, click around into the blogs of some of the websites that you visit, because what you're going to find more often than not is a dead blog where the last post is from 2022 and they're no longer doing it. And not to say that content can't be evergreen and still continue to be helpful. But there are a lot of companies that start doing a blog and then realize how much it actually takes to do it well, and then they just stop. So
Does that look bad? Does that have a bad effect for Google, do you think?
I don't think it's great. Um, I think with how rapidly things are changing in that world, you sort of need to be refreshing content probably every 6 months or so to stay top of mind for the algorithms. But I think more so than that, I think to a prospect that comes to your website, they might look at your blog and say, oh, well, they haven't done anything here in 2 years. Is this company even still in business?
Are they
And
even real?
I've had that happen to me before where I'm like, oh, these are from 2018. I don't think this is still a company.
I don't know
And
if I
that's just
trust
not a
this.
good look. Yeah.
Sure. It also strikes me here that if you are building your website or you already have a website and you're starting to consider a blog, you might be better off really filling out your service pages, really filling out some other pages to your point, Brooke, that are evergreen and will remain mostly constant through the life of your website, at least the content on them, right? If you're an accountant, again, like the way that you fill out a 1099 form is just not going to change that much. So doing a really good job on your service page about I can help you fill out a 1099 form, right? Like that may get you more credibility through Google at the beginning stages of your business and through, excuse me, through your audience actually reading these pages than trying to half your way through building a blog and then quitting at some point and it just looks like you mysteriously fell off.
Exactly. And that just speaks back to the earlier point of get everything else in place first. Make sure your website is fully built out. It has all the pages that you need. It has relevant information on those pages. It has enough information on those pages. And then once you can definitively say, yes, I have checked all of those boxes, the website looks great, I'm incredibly happy with it, and I have the time to commit to doing this, then you might be ready.
What about business owners who are at that stage, but they don't have the time to do this on their own? Because I think we're getting at very clearly here, this is a pretty big undertaking, especially if you want to do it well. And especially if you wanted to have a good return on the investment of your resources, time or money.
Yes. My first instinct is hire someone to help you with that. So here at Big Bad Marketing, one of the things we do is help small business owners develop a content strategy and build out a blog. We love big bad blogs. We love blogs with visual components that are going to be really helpful and easy for your audience to read and understand. So we are more than happy to help with that. I think one of the things we're seeing a lot right now is AI content. And if you are a small business owner, you probably are getting a ton of emails in your inbox saying, hey, we'll use AI to create your content and it'll only cost $4 a month and you're going to get all these blogs. And at this point, I think everyone has read some AI content and just sort of feels
Ooh.
how generic and in many instances awful it is. So I do just want to wave the caution flag there for you that if you are considering some of these AI tools, I think there can be a space for them in content development. And we'll do a future episode, just on that because I think it's really important. But having the human touch on your content is really going to be the thing that is enables it to connect for your customers.
I think if you want to use AI to publish a blog and you're a very specific type of business and your goal really is just to develop traffic, it can work. I think there's some workarounds. Like, I'm not suggesting doing that or that it's a good idea or enjoyable for your readers, but I think AI can be used in some facet to be effective in garnishing traffic, but that's not really going to go anywhere. And then after all that work, because you still got to like publish that stuff and edit it and revise it, like, and then it's just a lot of wasted time because by the time you get it up, who is actually going to read that, what's going to happen is what you mentioned, where people click on it and they're like, oh, I don't want to read this. And they go back, and Google's paying attention and knows that too. So I advise generally to be really cautious with AI, and agree with you, Brooke, that we should do an episode about using AI, when to do it, when not to do it, how to do it successfully. Because I don't think we're poo-pooing AI either. It is a very useful tool.
Oh yeah, there's some really cool things that it can do, but I think as writers, we understand how writing can help people connect and how influential it can be just for your messaging and for people to say, oh, you know what? That's a real person. And that's one of the things we really promote at Big Bad Marketing is like find your voice, find who you are, and then use that across all of your marketing efforts. And AI, it definitely has a voice. It definitely has a tone, and most of the time it's robotic, to say the least. So anyway, more to come on that, but I think I, again, just use caution if that's an approach that you're going to take. Otherwise, there are companies like ours that are more than happy to help you take
We're
a look at
writing
your
with a
current
pencil.
approach. But we will type it.
Okay. Yes, we will type it. We will use email. So, Brooke, how can someone write a good blog? And what does, not just one blog, but like what does a good blog on a site, like a collection of pieces, how's that created? What does that look like? Aside
Yeah.
from using human written content.
Yeah. So human written content, we've talked earlier in this episode about so many other things, like keeping your goal in mind. What is the purpose of your blog? Setting that content plan that's going to say, okay, we're going to do a series about roofing. And it's going to be all about how a roof protects your home and why people are choosing different shades of roof and the different shades of roof available, yada, yada, yada. And then once you have that plan, commit to executing regularly. So that's going to be better for your reader because they're going to understand that, oh, okay, they publish a blog once a month. So I'm going to see this in my inbox once a month. And you sort of start to train people with what to expect from your business. And you also train Google to say, hey, we're still here, we're relevant, we're publishing on a particular cadence, and that it doesn't have to be weekly because I know that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. It can be monthly, it can be quarterly, but just whatever you're going to do, commit to doing it regularly. And
Probably
then,
better to start small. So
yes,
quarterly, I love that. And then as you develop your skill and your system, add. But start small, I think, is a good use case here.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like we talked about in episode 5 with small business resolutions. It's you can't do everything all at once. And when you try to do all of the things, it just makes you ripe for burnout. So, choosing a cadence that you can handle, using images and visuals whenever you can. So, infographics and blog posts, data visualizations, imagery are all things that are going to make a more interesting reader experience and are going to keep people on your page for longer.
What's your
Um,
opinion on stock images? Yes or no? Is it
I
another? It depends.
I think it's another, it depends because in my experience, I've used stock images out of necessity. And there are a number of free tools, and we can go over this in another episode, some of my favorite free tools for stock images. But I think use them sparingly, but don't shy away from using them when you don't have anything else. Because photography, that's sort of another aspect of marketing that can take a little bit longer to get, especially if you don't have clients yet and you don't yet have those experiences where you can say, hey, we just finished this job. We're going to come take pictures so that we can show other people what we've done. Or you don't have the product photography yet because you just developed the thing. Like, don't be afraid to use stock images and then go back and replace them at a future date when you have something that might be a little bit um, a better experience for your reader. What are your thoughts?
I agree with that. And I think Stock photography as a blanket, it doesn't have to be free, although I totally agree when you can use free things. But I've seen some pretty solid, very applicable product and just industry photography that is available. So I think it's usable, but I would agree with you. Keep it on the low. And when you have the budget and the wherewithal to get your own images, do that. And maybe even more specifically, like you said, the graphic images. You don't even have to put pictures of people or things. Like you can use graphics to help show and create your point.
Absolutely. And budget is definitely a consideration. You know, something like Shutterstock, they've got great images, but they can get expensive quickly. So using a tool even like Canva to create your own graphics, that's going to be a way more cost-effective option. And then just other things to consider as you go with your blog. Most readers are going to skim. So keep that in mind and make it easily scannable and readable for them. If you have these blocks of text that are 5 to 7 sentences long, the odds of someone actually digesting and going through and reading all of that are going to be slim. So make sure that your piece is realistic in that it's scannable.
Right, which I think comes back to like laying it out well from the outset. So thinking through those tangential questions that will come up as a person is thinking about the primary topic and being able to use those as in a blog structure, what we call like H2s and H3s, which are ultimately just subheaders and then subheaders. Things like bullet points and numbered lists are really great tools to help break up text, but also show the reader the type of information that they want to see in a very simple way. One thing that I have learned over the years is through UX studies, which showed that so they scan people's eyes. This is a little
And
bit
what is
creepy, but
UX?
user experience. So this is like, what is the person actually experiencing when they visit a web page, which leads into CRO. So optimizing your page for conversions, click rate optimization. Um, and that's other rabbit holes. But the point of this is to say that blogs specifically, like as so they filmed the way that people's eyes moved when they got to any given internet page, particularly in this case with blogs. And they're like trying to understand what is happening to the people's eyes. And what they see is they make this what they call the F pattern, which is like they're reading the title. So they're reading across the top. And then they start scrolling down and they're reading a few more of those subtitles, subheadings. And then they just scroll all the way to the bottom, right? And then it just like, did this give me the answers I wanted? No, I'm going to go back to the main page. And so it's not to say that that's bad, right? You can still showcase your expertise, even if the person only does that F scan on your page by having the right subheaders, by having the right understanding of what their need was when they got to your page in the first place, which here's, broken record, our catchphrase, like, this is why you want to plan the end at the beginning and think through like what does my reader actually want to take away from this piece when they leave and make sure you put those things in your F shape on the page.
Absolutely. And it pays to be intentional about what you are creating and not just sort of writing on a whim. And wrap it up with a couple of key stats. So, 9 out of 10 marketers like ourselves are using blogging to achieve content goals. And websites with active blogs have over 400% more index pages and nearly 100% more inbound clicks than those without. So, if you needed some really tangible, data driven reasons to add a blog to your website, there's some food for thought.
Love it. And wherever you're at in this process, building your website, or maybe you're just still in the idea phase of like, I'd like to get a website together for my business. I'm about to jump ship and start this business on my own. We would love to help you.
Yes, we would. BigBadMarketing.com. And remember, we are not financial or medical experts, nor do we pretend to play them on TV.
Everything we say is for educational purposes to help you build a bigger, badder business and blog.
So don't sue us, please.